So thank you all for taking the time to be here today. I'm so glad to have you with me. Today we're going to be going over LinkedIn profile optimization. And that it's a really wordy way to say making your LinkedIn profile be even cooler, I guess. I am Emily Penfold-Daly. For those of you who I have not met in person, I'm so glad I'll be able to meet our Baton Rouge team next week. And for the other sales managers, directors of sales I haven't met yet, we'll meet at the conference at the beginning of June. My contact information is here, so if you have any questions throughout this training or after this training is over, please do not hesitate to let me know. And I'm more than happy to take some time to discuss things or share some resources with you if you get stuck at any point. Now, before I continue, I am hearing some other people pop in on the line. Who did we have just join? I'll give you a minute to unmute yourselves because I can't hear anything. No, we have mystery callers today. Let me just make sure nobody's messaging. All right, I see Kim's back on the line. I don't see any other new people, even though I hear dinging in. So if we have anybody else join, we'll just make them mention it. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is just an overview of the LinkedIn platform. We'll also discuss the basic navigation of the platform. We'll go over some basic updates that you can make to your profile, and then we'll also talk about some additional updates, some more enhanced updates that you can make to your profile so that you are even more appealing, that your profile is even more appealing and easier for people to navigate through. And then we'll close by going over just a recap, and we'll talk about the training that we have coming up next week. Are there any questions before we continue, or anybody that just called in that I haven't gotten attendance from yet? No, I'm going to do one quick check, one more check. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start. So the first thing we may be asking is why we would use LinkedIn. And it boils down to 5 basic points. And the first one is so obvious I almost hesitated to put it on the slide, which is networking. Working in sales and being part of the hospitality industry, we spend our entire days cultivating and nurturing relationships. So networking just seems like an obvious part of what we do on a daily basis. So networking is the #1 reason why we would want to be in LinkedIn. It also offers a certain level of credibility for 2 reasons. The first is that basically your professional life and your repertoire work that you've done is available for people to see, and that offers a certain level of credibility. But the other is that because of your connections, because of the other businesses and people that you're connected with, that also lends to your credibility. Another reason is the industry trends that you can keep up on. LinkedIn is a great place to keep up on trends within the industry when you're following different professionals in companies, but it's also a great way to enhance the communication about our industry trends. If you're on the cutting edge of a change or you're experiencing something that might be going on, let's say you're in a market where Airbnb is huge, that's a big industry trend right now, and you may be able to lend your insight to that trend. It's also an enhanced resume. Our resumes in general contain a lot of quantitative information. I worked at this place from this time until this time. I had this much revenue come in while I was there and did X, Y, and Z. And that's very quantitative. But your LinkedIn profile offers a much more qualitative and 3-dimensional view of your experience. It's much more like a working portfolio than your resume would be. And it's also fantastic for lead generation. So there's a great opportunity there for you to connect with other people within your industry that you might want to do business with. And are there any questions before we continue? It sounds like Kim's back.
I am back.
Hey, Kim, would you mind putting yourself on mute? We can hear a little bit of the kitchen noise in the background.
Sorry about that.
No, no bother at all. Thanks so much. And was there anybody else that beeped in that we missed? Okay. So LinkedIn has a different set of demographics than most of our other social media platforms. The information I'm showing you right now was collected by the Pew Research Center and presented by Sprout Social. And it talks about the demography of people in general. So this is not just the percentage of people on LinkedIn, this is the percentage of people within a community that are on LinkedIn. So 32% of people in urban communities are on LinkedIn, 29% in suburban areas, and 14% of people in rural areas are on LinkedIn. And these numbers are all going to be much smaller than the other social media platforms that we might engage on because it's targeted very specifically to as a tool for professional development and learning and networking. It's not targeted for keeping up with what the grandkids are doing. You'll notice also that the demographics here are much different than we would see on other social media platforms. So 44% of people making $75,000 or more are on LinkedIn, which is vastly different from platforms like Facebook, where some of the largest demographics are people making less than $30,000 a year. The same is so when we look at the educational breakdown. 50% of college graduates have a LinkedIn profile, whereas on Facebook, most of the people that are, the largest percentage of communities come from high school or less or some college that are on Facebook. And gender, 28% of men and 27% of women are on Facebook. And again, with the age demographics, you see some different trends than we see on other social channels. It's primarily people from 30 to 64. The most people from those series of generations are engaged on LinkedIn, and it's no surprise that corresponds directly with engagement in the job market. So the demographics on LinkedIn support for us the understanding that it is really targeted towards professional people like yourselves. So LinkedIn is similar to Facebook in a few different ways. The content is pretty similar. You can do photos and links and videos and slides and things like that. And you share your posts the same way, so you can like, comment, and share in the same way that you can on Facebook. And you can also, when you're on your personal page, you can also tag businesses and people in a similar way that you would on Facebook. The differences, though, kind of end there. So we're going to start diving into now the platform itself. So what we're going to do is there's actually, when we go through platform navigation, basic updates, and summary, there are 5 points for each. We're going to go through those here in the slide deck really quickly, and then we're going to dive into a demonstration so we can kind of see what all of these things look like firsthand. If you have any questions while we go through this or as we go through the demonstration, please do not hesitate to stop me and let me know. That being said, I will ask if you have any questions pretty regularly. So, speaking of which, are there any questions before we continue? Magical. Okay, so the first things we're going to touch on are in platform navigation. We're going to quickly touch on the overview of the main page, your network feed, or your timeline basically that you see on your LinkedIn profile. The main page menu options, so what you see in the drop-down menus available at the top of your page. We're going to look through the profile overview, so what your profile looks like and the pieces that make it up. One thing you'll notice is that while we'll take a look at all the individual pieces, they may not appear in the same order from person to person, and we'll discuss why. And then profile updates, so how you get to make different changes within your profile. And that will lead us very well into making those basic updates. So we'll talk about changing your privacy and settings, the imagery at the top of your page, your heading, and your summary and your experiences. And those are all very, very basic, basically copy and paste it from your resume sort of things. And then we'll step into enhanced profile options, so things that you can do to make your profile stand out that much more. So we'll talk about reordering those sections, which is, again, why people may have the same pieces on their profile, but they may appear in different areas. We'll talk about adding projects and documents, updating your public profile and a customized URL. We'll talk about LinkedIn Pulse, which is a great place to read material that other professionals are putting out and also publish your own. And we'll talk about endorsements and recommendations. Are there any questions before we continue? Okay, we're going to get right into it then. So I am using myself as a guinea pig today because I don't have the ability to hack anybody else's account, although I'm sure some of you totally would have let me do it if I asked. So we're going to start out just by going over the main page sections, and we're basically just going to be focusing right up on this top section here. So when you first log into LinkedIn, the first thing you'll notice is you have your little section here, and right off the bat, LinkedIn offers me the opportunity to improve my profile. And if I click on this link, it's going to bring me through a process of updates that I can make or additions that I can make to my profile to make it that much better. There's also this little section here that gives me a breakdown of the number of people who viewed my profile and the interaction that I've had on the updates that I've shared. So if I've posted a link or a video or anything like that. And then you have this section here where you can do your updates, so share an update, upload a video, or publish a post. So all of these, just like it would be right on the top of Facebook where you have that little bubble that you can fill out, this is basically that. And this next little bit is a great trick if you only have 5 minutes between sales calls to get anything done on LinkedIn. Over here on the right-hand side of your profile, it will give you a breakdown of how you can keep in touch. And these are quick either updates or changes that people have made on their profile that you can very quickly engage with. So Allison, who used to work at the Henry, just got a new job as an executive meetings and events manager at the Inn at St. John's. So I'm going to go ahead and like that. Jackie Maples, who I think is fantastic, became an independent distributor. I'm going to go ahead and like that. And Olia is celebrating an anniversary at Aramark, so I'm going to go ahead and like that. So you can go ahead at any point and skip. So I don't really know Oscar that well. That's a lie. I do know Oscar. And I can comment on anybody's if I wanted to as well. So that, and then right here just below this section is my timeline, which we're going to get into next. So in very simple terms, that is your very basic main page sections on your platform navigation. So your little updates here, where you can share your updates, and then ways that you can engage with other people. So again, if you've only got 5 minutes in the day, this is a great way to make sure that you're staying engaged. So the next section is your network feed. So if I go through here, you'll notice that it's going to give me, it's basically just like my Facebook. It's just a timeline of posts that other people that I follow have shared. You'll notice it generally is skewing much more professional. So it talks about, because of the people that I follow, it talks about marketing and service and hospitality. So this gives me all of those updates. And there is one trick that you can do as well. So it's going to default to top updates. And what top updates means is updates that are getting the most engagement. And that may be fantastic, but unfortunately, sometimes it's skewed a little bit because I follow Richard Branson and some other really heavy-hitting professionals on LinkedIn. So oftentimes their content is coming up before anybody else's. So sometimes it's more helpful to have what's most recent so that the people that I'm engaging with on a regular basis may be there. So it's going to give me all of the most recent posts. So it looks like Sherry has already been playing around on LinkedIn while we're on the call. Great job, Sherry. So it gives you your most recent posts. And again, while I'm here, I can like, comment, or share any of the content that's coming through from other people. And while I am, now that these people, so I'm connected with Christine Huber, so because I'm connected with Christine Huber, I now am given the opportunity to connect with Nancy Hall, who she's connected with. So that's basically my network feed and how you can customize it. So the next thing we're going to touch on is your LinkedIn menus. And those appear at the very top of your page. So we're basically just going to be paying attention to the black bar up here. If I hit LinkedIn or home, it's going to bring me back to this page at any point. So if I'm navigating and getting away from this, I can always come back here. And then it gives me a few different options. I have my profile where I can edit, see who's viewed my profile, and my updates. And that all comes right from here as well. I have my network, so I can see connections. I can add contacts. and I can see recommendations for people I know or add alumni from schools I've been to. And we'll touch more on this during our LinkedIn lead generation training coming up next week. Jobs does not have any drop downs. That's very self-explanatory. You go here to find employment or look and see what other people are posting for jobs. And then we have interests. And interests is companies that you follow. If you manage a hotel or a restaurant's LinkedIn page, that would be listed here in this section. There's also groups that you would be engaged in, and this is the same. These groups function very similarly to Facebook. They can be open groups or private groups where you need to be accepted into them. Pulse is what we'll talk about a little bit later on with Enhanced Profile. It's a place where people publish articles that they've written. So it's a little bit like a blog, but it's from a very professional perspective. So SlideShare, which is basically, in very basic terms, SlideShare is a PowerPoint presentation for the web. It's built specifically for consumption online to be sent via email and shared on profiles, and LinkedIn purchased it recently. GoToLearning connects you with Lynda, L-Y-N-D-A, which is a great resource that LinkedIn also purchased not long ago. And it provides really high quality trainings from professionals all across the globe in everything from sales and photography and service to coding and basket weaving. It's got a lot of really great, and they don't actually have basket weaving, but it's a lot of professional stuff. And that's a subscription for $25 a month. You have unlimited access to those trainings. And then ProFinder, which is just another networking tool that LinkedIn offers. So then over here on the right-hand side, business services, these are all paid services. So post-to-job, talent acquisitions, advertise, and sales solutions, these are all paid. Try Premium for free is also paid. And then up here you have your notifications for messaging and any other notifications. So Sherry accepted my request to connect, and we're now connected. And any pending invitations that you have. So that covers the menu section for my profile. Any questions before we continue? All right, we're done with this main page. We're going to go over to my profile so we can take a look at the pieces of our profile. And it's very easy to get to. To get to LinkedIn Home, I click the LinkedIn button. To get to my profile, I click my face. So once I've clicked on my face, it brings me over to my profile, and we will touch base on all of these items when I'm going through and showing you how to change them. But for now, basically, it starts off right at the very top with your synopsis of who you are. So your name, your location, what your current role is, what you've done previously, what your education is. And each of these little pieces we'll talk about a little bit more in depth in just a moment, but each of these little pieces is a search tool for people as well. So if people are searching, which we'll learn again next week, if people are searching for a particular role or job or location, this is where that information is going to come from. So if you continue down the page, it's going to break it down into each little section. The first thing that LinkedIn does at the top is it's going to give me any opportunities that I have to add sections to my profile. So if I'm missing something, test scores, patents, publications, advice for contacting, then I would be able to add these to my profile. And whatever you're missing, whether it be posts or summary, all of that will appear right here. So as you continue down, it'll start out with your posts. So anything that you have published to LinkedIn Pulse. Summary, which is just a synopsis of you. Your experiences, so this is all of your job descriptions. And each of the sections is pretty self-explanatory. Organizations, so this is any of the things that I am a member of. Honors and awards. Skills and endorsements. And skills are listed on your profile. It's very simple. I have a skill in photography. I have a skill in underwater basket weaving. And if you say, oh yeah, she knows all about underwater basket weaving, you can recommend me or endorse me rather for that skill. projects, and this is can be associated with a particular role that you've had, but it's basically any time you have collaborated with another person or even worked independently on something outside of your normal job role. This is great if you are working with a few examples are the DoubleTree in Charlottesville. Does a lot with the Boys and Girls Club for teaching kids to care, which is a DoubleTree initiative. And oftentimes they're working around a particular project. So the Dogwood Parade might be a project that they worked on. You can see here that I have an example for being a speaker in a classroom. Also, before my role existed, I was a reputation management champion, just like your properties all now have reputation management champions. I created a Zipcar partnership, Sagewell Property Champion. So this is a great place for you to include anything that you're doing outside of your normal job role. So again, if you are a social media champion, that's a perfect area to include it. And I would be the person, one of the people that you would be working on that project with. And maybe you're a director of sales and marketing or other people in your social media team. Education is another one that's very self-explanatory, where you've gone to school. Additional information is interests. The nice thing about these areas, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, is that it gives you a little bit more uniquity as opposed to just being a director of sales or a sales manager. This is the hook. These are the opportunities for people to connect with you. Oh, you like to bike? So do I. That's awesome. Oh, you like underwater basket weaving? That's awesome. So do I. And I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm so attached to underwater basket weaving today. Maybe it's because it looks so cloudy outside. Certification, so if you are a certified sales manager, if you're a certified public accountant, if you are a certified nurse's assistant, whatever the case may be, this is actual certifications from organizations. Any volunteer work that you have done, and this also goes into opportunities you're looking for, causes you care about, organizations you support, and then courses, languages, groups, and followers. And that's it. That is your LinkedIn profile. Any questions about that? Okay. So the next little bit of platform navigation is very simple. It is how to update your profile. And the easiest, it's so easy. It didn't used to be like this, but LinkedIn has made it very easy. Basically, if I hover over something that I can change, it lights up and tells me I can change it. So I can edit my background, and there's a little pencil. I can change my photo, and there's a little camera. All of these sections here have little pencils next to them, so I can change all of them. This little link pops up, and there's a gear next to it, so I can change that. I have the summary here, and I can change that. I can add positions and change all of these things. So there are opportunities everywhere to make changes, which brings us perfectly into making some basic updates. Are there any questions before we continue into updating your profile? All right, it's all pretty self-explanatory so far. So the first thing we're going to do is update our settings. And this is the one part of our profile updates that is not going to be on this page. It's going to be in a different section. Luckily, we've already visited it before, so we're going to go back up to our LinkedIn menu over to the right-hand side where my face is, and if I just hover here, it gives me a few different options. So it tells me about my account. I can post a job, manage a company page, change the language I would like LinkedIn to appear in, which is a good prank to play if anybody ever leaves this open on their page. And privacy and settings, so I'm going to go in and manage privacy and settings. So it breaks down into three parts: the account, the privacy, and the communications. So account is very self-explanatory. The email addresses I have associated with this account. It doesn't change the email address that you log in with, but if you have a few different emails that you have used professionally, it's a good idea to have those associated with your LinkedIn profile so that if somebody is looking for you using that old email, they'll still find you. So an example would be if I used to work at the Henry in Dearborn and my former email address was emily.daly@bhenry.com, I may want to have that email address associated with this profile so that if somebody ever looks for me under that, they'll still find me. And Another example is if you change your last name or you change your name in general and your email address updates, keep that old email address associated with your profile. Everything else here is pretty self-explanatory. Whether you want your videos to autoplay or not, I don't. I actually hate that, and I meant to update it. So auto-playing videos, third-party apps being allowed, subscriptions, all this other stuff. So this is your basic account information. If we go over to privacy, it's going to tell me information about my public profile. And we will talk about public profile when we go into enhancements that you can make to your profile. So don't worry about this too much right now. Who can see your connections, how you rank, viewers of your profile also viewed. So this basically just helps you determine what people are going to see when they're not connected with you directly. So whether you're visible or viewing in private mode. Blocking and hiding, data privacy and advertising, and security. So you can make changes to these at any point. Blocking and hiding, if you have, you can determine who can see your updates. Any people that you have to block, let's say you have a former client who is just bombarding you with inappropriate messaging, or you just have ceased your relationship with them in some way, you can block that profile. And anybody that you unfollow. So if their updates are not to your taste, you can unfollow them. And then communications. So this is about your notifications, whether you're getting notifications on your page or if you're getting them in email, how people can communicate with you, and those sorts of things. So that is your settings. Any questions before we move on? If you ask really nicely, someday down the line, if you hate that everybody can see everything that you do on Facebook, then there are also changes that you can make to your security settings there. If you don't want your boss to see everything that you're posting or your mom to see everything you're posting, you can change all that stuff. Okay, so we're going to go back to my profile, and again, I'm going to click on my face to get there. So I'm going to go ahead and start making some basic changes. And I'm going to start right here on the top with the most visible part of my profile. And the most visible part of my profile is, unsurprisingly, my face. So it's because as a human, it's the first thing that we're drawn to. So I do recommend you have a really good headshot. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to have it professionally taken at all. It doesn't mean that. What I mean when I say good is that it's a clear image of your face. It is professional, and it reflects you as a business person. So you don't want to have, unless you're a director of food and beverages, you generally don't want to have pictures of you at the bar, you know, double fisting glasses of wine. You want to make sure that it's not you and like 17 other people where people can't determine who it is that they're connecting with. And you don't want it to be like a photo of a painting that you've done or your dog or anything like that. You really do want it to represent you. The other section is your cover photo here, and for anybody who's had a social media call with me before, you know that I'm going to recommend, if you want to have a background cover photo, to go to Canva to edit it, which is a free online editing tool. It's fantastic, and this is a great way to pull in those other things that you like, so whether it represents what it is that you do. So you are you're a catering manager and you're focused on weddings. You may have a beautiful image in the background of one of your favorite wedding setups. If you are selling to a lot of sports teams or working with a lot of football teams, you might have your local football stadium. You may have your city's, you know, skyline in the background. You may have your own artwork in the background. So if you're a digital designer or a painter, you may have that in the background. If you are an avid gardener outside of work, you might have an image of a garden back there. So those are all those sorts of things you can put. And then your next section is up here at the top. All of this is actually going to populate from everything down here that we'll be updating later, but you can change it at any point. So obviously, my job title is not reputation management and digital marketing skills for hotels and restaurants. My job title is Director of Digital Presence. But this gives a clear understanding of what it is that I actually do. So sales manager might not be as clear as corporate sales manager, or whatever the case may be. You can get a little bit more descriptive with that title. Location is great. This is location and industry. I have United States because I'm not tagged down to any geographic location. But for you, if you're working in a particular city, it's really helpful to have location. As we talk about next week in lead generation, we're going to talk about doing location-based searches, and this is where that information comes from. So if you're based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, you should have Baton Rouge, Louisiana there. Likewise, if you're in Detroit, have Detroit. I wish we could all put Maui, but we can't all live in Maui. There's just not enough space. So, also, you have your current job or the current company that you work for, any previous companies that you've worked for, and your education. And you can change these if you'd like to. So if I wanted to remove Penn Daily and just leave Greenwood, I could certainly do that as well. So that covers our imagery and our headings and our setting. So we actually only have 2 sections left for basic profile updates. Are there any questions before we continue? Okay, so next we're going to go on to our summary. And on an earlier call, I had Cassie from the DoubleTree in Wichita ask me about summaries. She sees on LinkedIn that there are a combination between first-person and third-person summaries out there. So some people who are writing in I, and some people who are writing in he, she, they verbiage. And she asked what my recommendation was. And my recommendation for this and many other areas of LinkedIn is that whatever communicates you and your professional persona the best is what will be right for you. So the example that I gave earlier is that our Greenwood principles probably are all in the third person because they're very traditional professional business people. And they're at that, principal level. They're at that very high executive level. I, as a business person, am a little bit more casual in my communication with people. I'm a little bit more playful. And that communicates in all of the things that I do. You see it throughout my profiles and in the trainings that I give, and when you meet me in person, I tend to be a little bit more playful. So my summary communicates that as well. Your summary is just the synopsis of kind of who you are and why you're good to work with. And it can communicate as much or as little as you want it to. You don't even have to have a summary, but you want to think of it as your basically a cover letter on your resume. Every other area within your resume is going to talk about the things that you do, and this is going to help communicate why you do it. So in order to change it, you would just hit the blue pencil, and you have the opportunity to get in there. So I started out with my why, which is the platinum rule. I believe that we should treat others the way that they would like to be treated. I talk about how I got into hospitality. I started in theater production and design. And then I talk about just me as a person, creative, inquisitive, nurturing. Now, again, there is no right or wrong answer for this. It really is about what is best for you. This is one of those other opportunities, however, to, again, show your uniquity and offer a hook for people to be able to read a little bit more about you and connect with you on more than just a face value perspective. They may just look at you and say, oh, she's a sales manager, but if you are communicating a little bit more in depth about the other things that you're passionate about, it may be an opportunity for a deeper dialogue and a more rapid ice-breaking experience. Any questions about that? Has anybody on the call written a summary before for themselves? Yes, no?
I have not.
No.
Okay. Amanda, have you written a summary before?
No, she has not.
Okay. So it's another kind of tool for this, and it's actually something I just came across. I was challenged to do an exercise where I asked the people around me, professionally and personally, what my 3 greatest strengths were, my 3 greatest either professional or personal strengths. Because oftentimes we have a hard time writing about ourselves and looking at ourselves from a third-person perspective. So allowing a little bit of other people's influence can be helpful. And it was nice to hear some of the things that I did about communication and tenacity and all those other stuff. So not only is it a good little confidence booster, it also can give you some fodder for your summary. So then the next step with our basic update is our experiences, and this is very simple. It's basically your resume information. So the company that you worked for, the role that you had there, how long you've been there. And in order to add a position, it's very simple. You input the company name, and if I do Hilton Worldwide, for instance, it's going to, because the company was already there, the Hilton Worldwide logo will appear on the right. If I want to do Renaissance, I have Renaissance Hotels, that's right here, if Renaissance Baton Rouge doesn't have one. So Renaissance Baton Rouge does have one, so I could select Renaissance Baton Rouge and then input my title and the period and time that I've worked there. Now, once you have saved that information, there are some other changes that you can make. So if I have Greenwood Hospitality here and I want to edit this position, it's going to give me my Director of Digital Presence, my location was United States, and then I have this option up here. So I can either change the company, meaning that Greenwood Hospitality would change to another one, or I can edit the display name. So this is great. I'll show you an example of when this is best used. So when I was working at the Renaissance Providence, they did not have a LinkedIn page, but I worked for Sage Hospitality. So what I did was I put Sage Hospitality as the company that I worked for, and the Renaissance Providence Downtown Hotel was the name that I changed it to. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm hearing silent nods.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's a little tricky when everybody's on mute. It's great because there's no disruption from any like outside noises. But then every now and again, I'm like, I wonder who's out there. I wonder what they're doing. All right, so that's basically, very simply, all the basic things that you can do to change your profile. Are there any questions before we dive into enhancements?
No, we're good here.
Woohoo! Thanks, Sherry. I appreciate it. I feel so bad. The last couple times we've been on a call together with a big group, it's been crickets. So sorry, this morning was really active. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about our enhancements. So the first thing that you can do is change the order of things on your profile. It's really simple. The reasons why you might want to do this is if you're highlighting something, let's say I don't want my summary to be the highlight. I want my new position to be a highlight. You can move experience up, or if I just got a great new award for, corporate meeting planner of the year, I can move my honors and awards up. But to do it, it's very simple. There's just this little up and down arrow here, and it allows you to drag and drop that whole section somewhere else. So all you have to do is go to the bottom of the page and it'll automatically move it over. So if I go up, it'll bring it all the way up for me, and I can go back down, I'll bring it all the way down. So that is one little section, changing the order of the sections in your profile. And the next one happens to be right here. It's adding documents to your position. And I do this pretty regularly because this is where I keep, in addition to the YouTube channel that I have for Greenwood, I keep all of the trainings that I have done here. So when our trainings are done and they're recorded, if you ever need to refer back to them, either you can find them on the YouTube channel that we have, or you can find me on LinkedIn and they'll all be here. This is, again, another place where it's a really great opportunity for you to really express the work that you have done. This could be anything from if you're using if you are creating beautiful floor plans for different meetings or tablescapes for different meetings, you can share your floor plans here in a visual format. You can show photography of setups that you've done. If you generated a new banquet menu, you can share that menu. If you created a visual sales packet, you can include that information. Obviously, I have a lot of training material here. You'll also see I have some of the videos that I created and edited with our team at the Henry. I also have, when I received my 30 Under 30 Hospitality Award, I was able to take that online magazine and put that here so that you could read through that as well. Some of the visual things that I created over the course of my time in my last role. And then simple things like electronic guest directory room cards and stay over luggage tags, simple things like that. So you can go as simple or as in-depth as you'd like to get. But again, this is just adding that extra layer of visibility to your portfolio. So you can add media using document, photo, link, video, or presentation, whatever it is. And it's going to give you the opportunity to change which job it's associated with, and you can add a link or upload a file. And of course, if you upload a file, it's just going to pull up your internal folder. So that is how to add documents. And then we also looked at projects a little bit earlier and talked about if you are working with somebody as the social media champion or as the reputation champion, this is a great place to do that. So I'm going to go down to where I have projects, and you can add projects right here. So you can select the name of the project, which position you had, whether it was a student or whether it was professionally that you had while you were doing that project, if it happened on a particular day or if it happened over a long period of time. So a speaking engagement is a particular one time, but you may have had a fundraising event that went on for months, so you want to include that. And then any other team members that you worked with, again, this gives you a little bit an additional layer of credibility and a description of it. So we already talked about that, anything that you're doing from the brand. So if you are your property's social media champion, which is actually a Hilton initiative, they actually have social media champions on each property outside of our Greenwood level. If you head up a wellness committee, if you have worked with non-for-profit organizations outside of the company for the company, so let's say you work with Forgotten Harvest, or you work with the Boys and Girls Club or whatever the case may be, those are all projects. If you get invited to speak at an event, those are also projects. So that's it, documents and projects. And the next section we're going to go into is public profile. Are there any questions about our profile here before we continue?
I'm good.
Okay. Cool, thanks, Sherry. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue. Getting to your public profile, again, there are two places you can do it. We saw it in the settings menu. It was available for access from there. However, you can also access it right on your main profile page. So this public link here brings me right to my public profile. Also, I can use this little drop-down menu next to my profile, and I can manage public profile settings, and it's going to bring me to the same place. So this shows me my public profile. If you don't have one set up yet, it's going to bring you to this page and give you the option to make your profile public. And you can select what you'd like people to see. So the one strong recommendation I have for this is, even if you're not showing the description, I do recommend that you allow people to see your experience and your face. I'm not always good at remembering names, and I know that there are lots of other people out there who are not always good at remembering names, but I am very good at remembering faces. And I might not remember your name, but I feel like I know you from somewhere. And if I can put those two together, if I can say, oh, that's Sherry from the Holiday Inn, right, of course I should have known. it allows them to have an ease when they're either reaching out to you or when you're reaching out to them. So updating your public profile, again, very simple. All of the changes are made here on the right-hand side, and you can see them in real time once you save them. And you can update or remove any of those that you'd like to. And then the last section for updating your public profile is changing the URL. The nice thing about this, just like having a custom Facebook handle or your Twitter handle or your Instagram handle, it makes it easier for people to find you in the ocean of other people. So it's much easier for me to say, you can find me at linkedin.com/in/mpendaily or whatever you prefer. You can say linkedin.com/in/Janet Townsend or whatever. And you can customize that right here. And once you've saved it, you're all set. So two-step process for updating your public profile. Change everything you want people to see publicly and update your personal public profile URL, and you're good to go. So there are two other things that we're going to cover, which is our the LinkedIn Pulse, as well as our endorsements and recommendations. Are there any questions before we continue?
No, I'm good here. Amanda had to go though, and Jan had an emergency at the front desk. So I'm
oh no, glad. Okay. Thank you for letting me know, Sherry. I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right. So in order to get into LinkedIn Pulse, it's really easy to do. We've already seen it in our menu section. You go up to Interests and click Pulse. And LinkedIn Pulse, again, is a collection of articles that are shared by other professionals. So you can see we have Chelsea Handler who shared one here. We have some coming from Boston.com. You'll often see them from professionals like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and different people who are working in big major corporations. And you can also publish your own. So at the top of my profile, you saw that little blue image, and that was an article. So right here, a picture tells 1,000 words. And I built this based off of some of our social media communications and edited it so that it was appropriate to be consumed on its own in an article form and was able to publish it. So, and this is more time consuming than some of the other things that we have covered, but it is a great way to get your visibility out there. And although it seems really scary to do, it's really easy to scale up the things that you're doing already and make them more article style. So if you find yourself constantly sending out information to meeting planners about the best way to go about doing things, you can take those frequently asked questions and kind of list them in a way that can be consumed in an article form. So an example is here we have a picture tells 1,000 words photography for hospitality, and I broke it down into a few different parts. So it basically became a list of professional photos, original photography, shared images, and stock photography, and composed visuals. So I broke it down into 5 different parts. And you can do the same thing. So if you have your frequently asked questions that people are sending to you all of the time, you can take each one of those questions around planning a wedding. So 5 steps to planning the perfect wedding, or 5 steps to working with a difficult bride or a challenging bride. You can do your 5-step process. Step 1, blah, 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 communication. Step 2, lots of coffee. Step 3, Advil, whatever the case may be. So you can do your steps and kind of write them out in longer form paragraphs. So that is LinkedIn Pulse and publishing updates. And the last section that we'll go over is back on my LinkedIn profile. We're going to look at skills and endorsements. So the first thing is right down here, again, skills and endorsements, and we covered this earlier. Skills are very simple. It's something that you're adept at. Hospitality, photography, social media, sales, meeting planning, whatever the case may be, each of those is a skill. And every skill that you have listed gives people an opportunity to say, oh yeah, she knows about that. So obviously hospitality, I think I know about that. Hotels, I know about. Front office, I know about. Hospitality management, I know about. Customer satisfaction, I know about. And the more that I become ingrained in what I'm doing now, the more I see people recommending me for social media, social networking, training, and things like that. So skills is a very simple way to add credibility to your page and have engagement from other people. Now, the other option is a recommendation, and a recommendation is more long form. Obviously, it's more time consuming to write a long form recommendation, but they happen, especially for our sales teams, they happen a lot more than you might think right off the bat. So I'll show you how to tactically, how you actually do request a recommendation here. But we'll also talk about ways to make that process easier. So from your profile, use your drop-down menu like we did before, and you just ask to be recommended. And it's going to bring you to a recommendations page, and you can say what you'd like to be recommended for. So Director of Digital Presence, I would like to be recommended by Sherry Taylor, because we're now connected. We were working with each other in the same group. She was the sales manager, and then it allows you to customize your message. So this is where the technology stops and the tact starts. So this is about as far as you want to go before you really start making this a personalized process. So think about the time that it takes for somebody to recommend you. They actually have to sit down, they have to think about the work that you've done with them, and that can be really hard and time-consuming to do. So sending them a generic cookie-cutter response might not get you the feedback that you're looking for. There are a couple of things you can do that are very helpful, though. So let's say Sherry and I worked on a specific project. So if she has been on all 8 of my trainings and has been engaged in every single one of them, I may specifically ask her, hey, thank you so much for being involved in the trainings. I really appreciate you being so vocal on the calls. I would love her, and Sherry, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not actually asking for a recommendation, although you're welcome to leave one.
Cracking me up.
But you take the time to, be specific. We had this experience together. This is what I took from it. I would appreciate your feedback about X, Y, and Z. So help guide them a little bit. Don't just be, I want a recommendation. That doesn't really help anybody. Another great way to do this, and this is where our sales managers can really capitalize, is that I guarantee you have gotten a personalized thank you letter or a follow-up email from a client who absolutely loved you. So take that email, take that letter, type it up, and when you come back here and you go write your message, and in your subject you say, can you recommend me? Instead of saying, can you recommend me, you can say, thank you for the beautiful letter, or thank you for the wonderful email. And then in the body of this, you say, hey, thank you so much for that wonderful email. I'm so glad that I had such a positive impact on your event. I can't even express to you what a joy you were to work with, and I so look forward to having you as a client again. Thank you again for the note that you left. I would love to use it as a recommendation on LinkedIn. Would you mind sharing it? Or I would love it if you would share it as a recommendation. And then paste what they wrote word for word underneath it and send that. And you have taken all of the steps out of it for them. They have already done all the work. They already said thanks. They already wrote the letter. They already wrote the email. Now they just need to say recommend and hit copy and paste. Easy peasy. So that's a great way to make asking for a recommendation that much easier. If you really rack your brain, there are people complimenting you and thanking you for things that you do on a daily basis. Those are the easiest people to go to and say, hey, I really appreciated that kind thing you said. Would you mind putting it in writing? So it's kind of like putting your keyboard where your mouth is. So recommendations, endorsements, and recommendations are the final way that I recommend enhancing your LinkedIn profile. So that's it. We're done, folks. Those are all the live things that I wanted to go over. And before we close, are there any other areas of your LinkedIn profile that you'd like me to take a look at with you?
I'm good.
Cool. Okay.
I'm good.
In closing, LinkedIn is meant to reflect you. So be honest with who you are as a professional. If you are playful, then you want to have that out there. If you are very professional, have that out there. If you're great at writing, communicate that. If you are great with visual stuff, communicate that. If you can keep things under budget like nobody's business, there are ways to reflect all of that in your profile. And there is no black or white answer to most of these sections. It's all gray area. It's all your canvas for you to work with. The time investment is flexible, meaning that if you have just a couple of minutes a day to devote to LinkedIn, you can activate your LinkedIn profile. If you have an hour because you had a client cancel and you don't have anything else to do, then you can invest that time in LinkedIn as well. It is just another way for us to have dialogue with our guests and customers. And as a reminder, we do have lead generation training coming up next week. And I apologize for the time confusion today, but next week is Friday the 27th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 3 p.m. on the nose Eastern Standard Time. These sessions are recorded. Actually, right after this call, I'll be emailing all the people who logged in using the screen share, because I'll have your emails, and you'll get a temporary recording. And then the finalized edited recording will be put up on my LinkedIn profile and our YouTube channel for you to refer back to at any point. So now that you're all masters in LinkedIn, or have gone through this training at the very least, you can go ahead and take yourselves off mute and kind of we'll chat. What do you or would you use LinkedIn for based on your training today? Was there a tip that you saw that was helpful, or do you have another one that you'd like to share? And are there any other questions?
I was good, Emily.
Cool. How's everybody in Oklahoma? Oklahoma.
Thank you very much.
Oklahoma. Good. Oklahoma. Is that what you call somebody who's from Oklahoma?
Only if you want to fight.
Oh, no. How about Baton Rouge? Landon, Melissa, how is everything for you? Any questions I can answer?
Good. I don't have any. I'm good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so in that case, again, we do have our training next week. If while you're going through this magical experience you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. You can send me a note via email or give me a call, and I'm generally available to do a screen share and kind of go over anything or send resources to you if you need them. So thank you all again very much. I appreciate it, and have a beautiful day.
You too.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
I know Cameron, you know, I know who she is, you know what I'm saying? At least they went on there. Yeah. You know they coming. I'm surprised Yolanda didn't get no card and receipt. But she just keep it all together.